everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm back to my kitchen in London, and in light of the apple harvest season that started a couple of days ago, I'm going to show you how to make my all-time favorite apple pie recipe. This is one that my grandma gave me many years ago, and it's really simple and quick because it doesn't require the traditional apple pie crust, but trust me, it's even better. Keep on watching. Okay, so before I start my recipe, I'm gonna put a damp kitchen towel under my chopping board so that it prevents it from slipping while I cut. You can use it for either wooden or plastic board. Then, for today's recipe, I'm using Gala apples. They're widely grown and you can find in any supermarket. They're very sweet and quite aromatic and make the perfect pair for my apple pie, for which we're not going to use many sweeteners. Now I chop the apples in half and then in quarters, and I'm using a paring knife which has a smaller blade to cut out the center. The way to do it is to make an incision from one side of the cut apple, and then you make an incision from the other side, and the middle comes quite easy. Or you can use an apple cutter to take out the center if you have one. The apples today I didn't peel because they're organic, so it's fine, but I needed to wash them very well. Then I'm gonna slice my apples in about a half a centimeter slices, and I'm doing that by placing the apple on the cut side down and then slicing from there carefully. One way to check whether your apples are already ripened and ready to eat is to look at their seeds. If the seeds are dark brown, then the apple is good. If the seeds are a lighter brown color or a bit yellowish, then the apple is still not ripened enough and the flavors have not developed completely. As you may have noticed, while cutting certain fruit and vegetables, they may get a bit brown on the outside. To prevent this, I am gonna put my apples in a bowl and then squeeze a bit of a lemon juice on top, and the acidity from the lemon is gonna prevent the apples from oxidizing or getting the browner color. You're not gonna feel the lemon in your dish, neither if it's a savory or a sweet one, because it's just a couple of drops. I'm gonna cut the other apple the same way and place it in the bowl to prevent it from oxidizing as well while I prepare the rest of my ingredients. To bake my pie, I'm gonna use a ramekin, but you can easily use a glass dish or even your cast iron pan. It doesn't matter what you're using, just make sure you oil it nicely before you assemble the pie. And for the crust, I am using these digestive cookies today, which are whole grain and high in fiber, but if you like, you can use graham crackers, the biscuits, oat cookies, or literally any cookie that you like that has not a very strong taste but more of an apple, cinnamon, or vanilla flavor. I'm assembling them on the bottom of my dish, and because they're round and the dish is square, I have some space left on the bottom that has not been covered by the cookies. What you can do is you can break some cookies and put them in between the gaps, but then you're gonna get a very thick crust. Now that I have my cookie layer ready, I'm gonna place the apples on top. The way to do it is just to make sure that your layer is very even, because when you bake it, if you have parts that are higher than the others, they're gonna burn more in the oven. Once you have done the first layer, you can see that there's some gaps between the apples, so this is why we have the additional apples to make a second layer. The first layer you can do horizontal, while the second you can put perpendicular, so that you're sure you fill all the small gaps in between the apples. Once I have the apples ready, I'm gonna put some raisins that I have soaked in water for like an hour before I am putting them on the pie, just so that they're not really dry once the apple pie is baked. If you don't like raisins, you don't need to put them, but they just add to the sweetness and the flavor of the pie. Next thing I'm gonna do is sprinkle some cinnamon on top of my apple pie, because apple and cinnamon is the perfect autumn combination. Once this is ready, I'm gonna place it on the side and start preparing my topping. So for the topping, I'm gonna take a bowl and crack in 2 eggs inside. Then with a whisk, I'm gonna beat up the eggs until they get paler in color. If you don't want to get too tired whisking the eggs, because it's gonna take about 3-4 minutes, you can use an electric mixer. This is how the eggs are gonna look after you have mixed them for about a minute with the mixer or about 2-3 minutes by hand. The next thing is the sugar, and this is very optional. You can put a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half of sugar inside your mixture, or you can leave it like this. Then we take the mixer and we mix it again until we get the paler, quiet, bubbly and fluffy texture. I'm gonna add my flour, which is a combination of wholemeal flour and plain flour. It's 50% wholemeal flour, 50% white flour. Then you mix it through with your whisk. You don't need to use the electric mixer here. Also, I'm gonna put a half of a teaspoon of baking powder just to give it the rise when it bakes. Mix this through nicely. Once it's ready, take back your apple dish and pour the mixture over evenly so that there are no gaps left. Because the mixture is quite thin, it's gonna leave some apples not as covered as the others. It's fine as long as you try to spread it as evenly as you can. Make sure it goes in the corners as well, but not only in the middle of your dish. This is ready. I'm gonna put it in my oven and bake it at 180 degrees for about 40 minutes. It depends very much on your oven, but take a look, and once it gets golden on top, it's ready. So my pie is all baked now. I took it out of the oven about 30 minutes ago and let it cool down so that I can easily cut it. This is how it looks, and as you can see, it has a nice crust on top, but inside the apples are still moist and tender. So the pie is perfectly baked, and I'm gonna place it on this plate here, and maybe I'll take one more piece because this one looks quite small. So for the garnish, we all have different tastes, and this is normal, but what I like is to put a scoop of vanilla ice cream on top. Apart from the vanilla ice cream, you can put caramel sauce on top, you can put custard if you want, just anything you like would go with the apple pie. Another thing that I would gonna put on top are some cranberries. I know it's not very traditional to have cranberries. These ones are not the sweetened ones and they're quite sour, whereas the cake, because of the biscuits and the apples, is quite sweet. Then this gives a very nice balance, and also the ice cream is very, very sweet. And here it is. This is my apple pie with a biscuit crust. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment below.